Hi guys, it's Debbie, and today I'm going to try to patch together some frustrated thoughts I've been having lately and which partially led me to feel a bit disillusioned in regards to the film industry, and which also made me less encouraged to upload content to my channel. I've been bottling everything inside and I felt the need to process it all, talk about it, randomly after watching Baz Luhrmann's 1992 directorial debut Strictly Ballroom and the 2023 hit Barbie. Essentially, I have this feeling there is no longer an attempt to create a work of art, to uphold the idea of cinema as what used to be considered the seventh art, and just this desperate race to who will come up with the highest grossing film of all time. But there is a lot to unwrap, so please don't jump to conclusions, just watch the video until the end. As you know, I am an avid film lover. I have a lot of different passions, but it is undeniable that cinema has always been a friend there for me to entertain me, to comfort me, to bring me to another world for a couple of hours. It's my number one interest. But of course, as the years went by, studying the behind the scenes, how the industry works, and actually getting to work in it, I'm fortunate to work for a media company in the film industry. All of this opens your eyes to the hows and whys of that world. I was once talking to a musician who told me how he wishes he could go back in time and sit back and enjoy a concert without constantly analysing all the technical details and the mistakes the artist is making. And I feel the same. I really wish I could just go back to a time in which I would, I don't know, look forward to the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I'd be excited to watch the new Harry Potter movie. You know what I mean. And hopefully this video will be a bit therapeutic. Throwing it all out there, putting my thoughts into words will actually allow me to accept that industry for what it is and just going back to enjoying the movies. Getting back to the point of this video. Films no longer feel like a form of art. Films are actually a relatively new business. The modern concept we have of feature-length films has only been around for about 100 years. And after the few years or decades of assessment and innovation and actually coming up with filming techniques, the industry boomed with some of the most beautiful pieces of art, the seventh art. Of course, nobody in the film industry is in it just for the glory. Of course, everybody's always wanted to make money out of it. But for decades, there used to be at least some attempt to actually make a lasting impact in the world, something people would want to watch and rewatch for years to come, something that could change moods, lives, something inspiring. Nowadays, instead, all of that has been scrapped because the number one absolute priority is box office revenue. Studios have changed, merged, bought everything. So if you're an aspiring filmmaker, you have to choose between standing by your vision and hoping a smaller indie production company will actually support it, or you'll end up in this ever-growing black hole of spin-offs, sequels, reboots, remakes. Because in the minds of the studio execs, there's this concept of why should I bother risking taking on this curious but unconventional story when we're certain we're going to cash in big, continuing to milk, for example, Fast and Furious, Marvel, Avatar. Better yet if it's a series, as that can just keep on going forever. And on the other hand, this encourages filmmakers to give up on attempting to even put some effort into coming up with creative storylines. They just need to pump out any generic and fast-selling plot because that's what will get greenlit, especially in this golden era of streaming in which people expect something new every month on every streaming platform they pay for. Of course, this is just a generalization. Of course, I know that not everybody out there thinks and does like this, but that really is just the current vibe. Think back at the films released in the last years. You can probably only come up with about a handful of really game-changing, interesting, mind-blowing, memorable and unique movies. The rest is all extremely forgettable or isn't new. It's some sort of rework of a previous title. Also, many companies, especially in Hollywood, love to virtue signal, putting the priority on the wrong thing. They love to show how unique and progressive and inclusive their films are when they're nothing like that. We're not stupid. We know it's just something that they need to comply with, otherwise they'll risk a huge backlash, a lot of criticism, and losing their money. They don't really want to create something unique and interesting and diverse. They'll just shove into our face the remake of one of their popular cash machines and they'll add one side character who looks maybe racially ambiguous, shove it into our face, we'll clap at it, we'll give a tweet about it. Sorry, we actually need to say post about it now. This is why some smaller companies like A24 became so popular, because they brought to success unconventional stories by lesser known filmmakers. Now they've grown quite a bit due to the massive success of some of their recent films, in particular Everything Everywhere All at Once, so I don't know for how long they'll maintain their indie status. But for example, with Everything Everywhere All at Once, they already fell into this trend studios have come up with post-COVID of turning releases into events. During the height of COVID, many people realized they could just watch films at home. Why spend money and go to the cinemas? So studios had to come up with something new, and so now they love things like the Barbenheimer, the Gentle Minions, people going to the cinema and taking photos of themselves watching really hyped up films. Everything has to be a big event you can't miss out of, and every single media outlet will go with it. It doesn't matter if it's an absolutely horrible movie, it has to be this unmissable event. If you miss it, you'll be the only one in the friend group who can't keep up at conversations. You'll be the one for which they can't talk about the film at dinner because of spoilers. Also, if you want to watch this new Indiana Jones film, or this Mission Impossible film, or this Fast and Furious film, you need to watch all the previous films, otherwise it just won't be the same. Also, you need the merch. You need to go and buy that plastic Barbie water flask which you'll use at work for a week. You see, this is why I felt a bit uninspired to upload videos to my channel, because there is this general mood, this feeling that if you don't talk exclusively about, I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy, Dune, John Wick, you name it, then your videos won't receive that much exposure. But I've come to terms with the fact that that's not me. There are still smaller companies pushing creative work, so that's what still keeps my hopes high. I love when I suddenly come across a new film that feels like a breath of fresh air and not the usual predictable storyline, and that's why I love sharing with you in my What I Watched This Month videos everything I've been watching, even if it's an unknown film from Antigua and Barbuda, and I love catching up with films you recommend. I'm not exaggerating when I say you've recommended some of the most thought-provoking, dark, interesting titles I've watched. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy big releases. I also get excited for some of them, but I hate this basically selling your soul to it attitude, or liking/disliking a film solely because that's what everybody is saying about it. The menu good because everybody says it's good, not because I made up my own opinion on it. So I still have high hopes, but the industry really seems to be getting worse and worse, and I really don't know where it'll be in a few years. Maybe at that point Disney will have bought everybody else and we'll have the Lego animated spin-off series of the Fast and Furious. I mean, do you really think it'll end next year with the last chapter? One of the other things that is getting progressively worse, to the point of even changing the plots of some films, is the insane product placement. I'll take the example of Barbie because it's a recent well-known film and corresponds to many points of criticism I will bring forward, but this is not a hate video towards the movie, it's a criticism to the industry as a whole. We all of course know Barbie is basically an advertisement for a Mattel product, and now they're even releasing all the new products related to the films, the new dolls, new merchandise. But that's normal. The same concept goes for the Lego movie or Transformers. But with Barbie, in addition to the obvious Barbie Land related products, everything else is jam-packed with product placement, to the point that every single object that's not Barbie Land related is displaying a huge brand, and it is very distracting and extremely obvious. So basically, even if you pay for the premium version of everything, you're still going to be bombarded with ads. It's basically, you're just watching a big advert. I'm not talking of the insider promo which studios love to do, like the Warner Bros. Building in the background of the human world. This is something every company loves to do. Apple TV's Ghosted is full of Apple related products. They've even changed slang, like in Hulu's Plan B that changed Netflix and chill to,
well, maybe you should invite him over for a little Disney Plus and thrust, huh?
These are all acceptable, they're fine. What I'm talking about is this, and 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 this. I thought it was funny when the Duolingo owl turned up at the Barbie premiere dressed as Barbie, until I saw why it was there and how it was advertised in the film. That part of the plot wouldn't have been there without the ad. So these ads are changing the storyline. Product placement in itself is okay. If it's not invasive and doesn't drive the plot, it can help to finance a movie, and it's nothing new. Think of Back to the Future from the 80s that was full of product placement. That's why at the beginning of the film I was mentioning Baz Luhrmann's Strictly Ballroom, because there is a scene that features a big Coca-Cola billboard, but it doesn't disrupt the whole film. It actually creates a very Baz Luhrmann-y aesthetic. What's annoying me is that, again, the studios think we're stupid. The ad just takes over the plot and they just make us pay to watch one big ad. For example, in Ghosted, which on a side note is one of the worst films of 2023, actually features a lot of Apple related products because it's an Apple TV film. That it opens with the protagonist speaking over a sort of, I don't know what kind of Apple thing it is. You see a lot of iPhones, but a main point of the plot is driven by the fact that the protagonist uses these sort of AirTags to track down objects that he loses, for example his inhaler and even his love interest. So the whole premise of the plot is an advert. It's based on you wanting this product. You see what I mean? At least at that point, make a film like Air or Tetris or Blackberry, one of these product origin films that everybody loves right now. Or create some unique merchandise to sell based on the film, like A24 does. But no, companies have now started to implement even this product placement in post-production. So film is done, is completed, and then basically they sell spaces in the film. So unbranded cans, unbranded cereal boxes, unbranded posters, billboards, or just empty spaces in the film are just sold to who pays more. So imagine how many companies will run to hugely highly awaited films just for the concept of putting their brand on there. You can do basically anything you want at that point. A lot of people defend Barbie's exaggerated product placement, saying that Barbie, after all, is the symbol of capitalism, and so this is just genius marketing. But does that mean that every film that speaks of a specific topic should be filled with brand deals from that specific topic? What should Oppenheimer have done then? But all jokes set aside, when Barbie and Ken are discussing about their roles and about Ken just being a Ken and trying to create his personality, every single object they have in their hand is branded. Everything on the background is branded. They're literally standing holding branded products. And nobody is going to change my mind that the Flash saying this,
"Come on, Barbie, let's go party,"
just 1 month before Barbie is released by the same studio, wasn't intentional. Anyway, I think I've rattled my brain enough and thrown out so many random ideas that it's been quite therapeutic. Hopefully I'll just go back to enjoying the films. I think it's important to enjoy the films, enjoy the new ones, get excited for the new ones, but also enjoy lesser known films, all while acknowledging the behind the scenes, the money movements, the reasons why certain choices are made, but without, I guess, getting so desperate and rattling brains about it. Of course, now I'd love to hear what you think about all of this. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.